Yes, everybody, President Biden has officially announced a new signing. The bill will actually provide additional financial aid to people that meet the eligibility requirements, but there might be some bad news for Social Security benefits. The SSA is actually warning that benefits might soon run out, and this definitely is not good, everybody. So, according to the annual report for the Board of Trustees of the Federal Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, the future of Social Security remains uncertain. I know many of you are wondering whether Social Security will run out soon. Well, CNN has just reported that Social Security's income is expected to exceed its annual expenses this year. The report projects that reserves will be fully depleted by 2035, and annual taxes are expected to cover only about 3/4 of the benefits each year after that. Part of the problem can be attributing to longer life expectancies, a smaller working age population, and an increase in the number of retirees. By 2035, the number of people 65 and older will increase to more than 78 million, from about 56 million today. As a result, more people will begin taking money out of the Social Security system, but there will be fewer people paying into it. Now, that doesn't mean the program will run out of money entirely, though. Payroll taxes are expected to cover about 76% of scheduled benefits. But if the 21% funding gap is not filled, retirees could get lower Social Security payments, or workers might need to pay more into the system. And if no changes are made, the worst case scenario would be that benefits will be cut. If you plan to rely on the Social Security program in 2035, it is important to know that there's a chance you could receive less in Social Security benefits than you might have expected. If no changes are made to deal with the trust fund shortfall, benefits will have to be deducted, reduced by 23% for many retired adults. That kind of cut in benefits will represent a big financial hit. Social Security provides at least half of the income for 50% of elderly married couples and 70% of elderly single people, everybody. And if benefits are not cut, tax revenue for the program will likely have to increase. One way to do that is through increasing the payroll tax rate. Social Security is also funded through a 6.2% payroll tax that workers have to pay, plus another 6.2% that employers pay. Now, President Biden has also signed a bill into law that overhauls the finances of the U.S. Postal Service and is designed to modernize the National Mail Agency. President Biden remarked on the historical legacy and ongoing importance of the federal agency while signing the $107 billion bipartisan package. Biden said today more than 675,000 dedicated women and men of the U.S. Postal Service continue to deliver to the American people. And it's no exaggeration to say the Postal Service delivers democracy. Now, the new package, everybody, gives the agency greater financial flexibility in removing $57 billion in past due postal liabilities, as well as $50 billion in payments over the next 50 years. The new law is going to require Postal Service employees to enroll Medicare when eligible, and repeals a previous mandate for the agency and force it to cover healthcare costs upfront and years in advance. According to the House Oversight Committee, those two measures would save the USPS nearly $50 billion over the next decade. The legislation also requires the Postal Service to create an online public dashboard with local and national delivery and performance data, as well as allow USPS to work with local governments to offer other helpful non-postal services. Unlike other government institutions, the U.S. Postal Service must rely on revenue it collects from deliveries, not taxpayer funding, to support itself. This means that the agency established in 1775 must operate without the usual financial benefits of being a federal agency while still having to bear these costs. Folks, do you think that President Biden can get the job done this year and send out stimulus payments in 2022?
Mr. Speaker, this morning the Rules Committee met and reported a rule, House Resolution 1033, providing for consideration of H.R. 3807, the Relief for Restaurants and Other Hard-Hit Small Businesses Act of 2022, under a closed rule. The rule provides 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Small Business, self-executes a manager's amendment from Chairwoman Velasquez, and provides one motion to recommit. And Mr. Speaker, I rise today to urge my colleagues to adopt the rule and support critical funding for restaurants and other small businesses across our nation. As we all know, small businesses, especially restaurants, are the backbone of our local economies, not only for the revenue they bring in, but for the many local workers they employ, families that need their paycheck now more than ever. But sadly, restaurants have been some of the hardest hit businesses throughout the COVID-19 crisis, and many have struggled to keep their doors open. Many of us here have made a promise to support workers, families, and businesses in their time of need, and that's why we established the Restaurant Revitalization Fund in the American Rescue Plan, which provided $28.6 billion in emergency assistance to eligible restaurants, bars, and qualifying businesses impacted by the COVID crisis. This program was clearly a success, providing relief to more than 100,000 restaurants and food and beverage businesses across the nation. Some recent estimates show that the program saved over 900,000 jobs, and 96% of recipients said the grant made it more likely they would stay in business. However, there is no question that our initial investment was not enough. The program ran out of funds in just 3 weeks, as the total funding requested exceeded $72 billion, far more than the $28.6 billion provided for in the American Rescue Plan. This funding gap resulted in 178,000 restaurants who were unable to secure funding in this program, even though they applied to the program and met all of the eligibility requirements. Let me say that again, 178,000 restaurants, many of which are in danger of permanent closure if Congress does not provide them with the relief they need. The underlying legislation, the Relief for Restaurants and Other Hard-Hit Business Act.
12 states so far have announced that they'll be extending the food stamp benefits. The SNAP benefits help millions of low-income families. In April 2021, the federal government extended $1 billion towards food stamp programs in the United States. The extra $1 billion will help an estimated 25 million people in low-income households that struggle to put food on the table. The food stamp benefits were expiring in September 2021. Nevertheless, the vast majority of states extended their emergency SNAP benefits. Many states extended emergency benefits through January, and some of them are keeping the SNAP benefits through February. The amount of money depends on the family size. However, the minimum amount that households will require is $95. The average food stamp benefit increased to $157 per person in October. Additional states could extend benefits during the next weeks or even days. Now, if you're interested in applying for SNAP benefits, please know that each state has a different way and diverse application form for all SNAP programs. Also, the amount in SNAP benefits that you receive will depend on your family size and your state residence. Folks, so that's all the news about the fourth stimulus check that I want you to know. But be sure to continue watching the next video to find out the most important stimulus information.
Office.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to sponsor H.R. 5641, the Speed Recovery Act. It's a bipartisan bill that cuts red tape and helps expedite disaster recovery efforts, especially in the small and rural areas that we have throughout the country. This legislation updates the threshold of what FEMA considers a small project. It updates it to $1 million under the Stafford Act, $1 million under the Stafford Act. This is the first statutory adjustment under the Stafford Act for inflation and rising repair costs